Hello, my name is Brent, and although most of you know me as an animator or YouTuber, I'm also a little bit of a film photographer, and I have been shooting on film now for 1 year. So today I would like to take you through some of the best film photos that I took in 2022. So my film journey started last year when my dad gave me this film camera, which is a Canon AE-1 program, probably from the early 80s. And although I wasn't originally that interested in shooting on film, I watched a few YouTube videos and I learned about it and played with all the buttons and dials and decided that yes, this was something I wanted to learn how to do. I'm a big fan of cool vintage things, and film photography is a very cool and pleasing vintage aesthetic that you can do in the modern era. And so this was definitely an art form that I wanted to get into. So the first lens that I started shooting on was the one my dad had put on the camera, and this is a Quantarie 28-80. But I believe that this lens is a little bit broken. It has something called a thorium coating, and thorium is a slightly radioactive substance that can yellow over time. And so the first few rolls of film that I shot on my camera were a little bit yellow, which we are about to see. I got a fun photo of my bike sitting on my apartment balcony. This is a bird of paradise plant in my courtyard that came out nice with nice depth of field. And here is a nice old car that I saw while on a bike ride. And this is my first attempt at attempting to shoot with the self timer. I tried to put my bike in focus and then sit in front of it and have the camera take a picture, but I am a little bit blurry. And here was a nice photo of the Burbank pool, and this one had a cool lens flare on it, so I quite liked it. So the first set of images I had developed at a place called Burbank Cam Photo, which is a nice, quaint little mom and pop shop on Glen Oaks. But the image quality I was getting from them was a little bit small, and they were also delivered on a CD-ROM, which made it a little bit difficult to retrieve the images off of. So the next place I tried was the Icon, which is a photo lab in central LA. And I never actually went there, but you can mail in your photos and they will send you back some high resolution TIFFs. I really liked this photo that I took of my friend Emily. There was a lot of sort of like white light mist sort of pouring in around her that I thought was very appealing and flattering. And one of the hardest things about film photography is getting other people to take photos of you. Most people don't know how to use a real camera, they can only use their phones. But Emily did an amazing job and got me perfectly in focus. And the cool yellowing thorium stuff going on with this lens gave me these really awesome colors. So I quite like this photo of me. Here's another great one of Emily. I got a really cool light leak on this photo of Emily playing a guitar. And that also came out in the next photo of my friend Elisa and her boyfriend Julian in front of the Foster's Freeze. Nighttime photography is pretty difficult, but I got a good photo of my friend Kendra eating an ice cream cone. And I really like how abstract and blurry and grainy the background is on this one. I really liked this scenic view from Malibu of a little boat out in the ocean. I tried to take some pictures of Burbank apartment architecture, and I really liked this Toyota Land Cruiser. The front end was so interesting, and the colors came out so cool with some Lightroom presets that I put on it. I think this image was a little bit underexposed, but the flower here had such nice texture to it that it ended up becoming one of my most favorite images. And this is one of my most favorite alleyways in Burbank, and this image was particularly cool because we got a nice lens flare in the corner. I found a cool old TV that had sort of been left in an alleyway, and I really liked the light hitting all the wires and circuit boards. And I really liked these electrical meters. I took the camera to the Hollywood Reservoir and got this fun shot of the dam. So it was after the Hollywood Reservoir photos that I started to realize about the yellowing thorium issue, and that is when I decided to invest in this lens, which is an original Canon FD 35-70. And the photos that this lens took came out a lot more true to their real colors. I really liked this photo of Glen Oaks at the smog check station, and there was a really cool old BMW, and the blue on the BMW kind of matched the blue on the sign. I got a nice photo of my friend Kyle at one of the Animation Union Guild rallies. And here is a photo I really liked of my friend Kevin at the LA Old Zoo. I took my camera to my friend Jack's birthday party and tried to get some fun candid shots of everyone. These were a little bit difficult to take because I had never photographed a moving subject before. And there was also an influencer group standing around also taking photos, so I snuck in and caught one of the models. I really liked these hot dogs, and they tasted really good as well. One of the cool things about these old lenses is how often you get lens flares, so I really liked this one of Max. These are some hills at Malibu Creek State Park, and if you hike all the way to the end, you can go to the MASH site where they have some of the old MASH ambulance props still there. So it was at this point that I decided to change photo labs. I found a really close photo lab in Glendale called Digital Photo Print and Studio. And you can drop off your negatives there, and in a few days they will send you some really high resolution JPEGs. And so for the rest of my photography, this is the lab where I had all my negatives developed. I would sometimes take my camera on little bike rides to take photos of local spots in Burbank. I really liked these ones of the Burbank power plant. They came out really nice and pastel-y. There is a historic area in Burbank called the Magnolia District, which has a lot of houses that were built in the 40s and 50s. And it's a really cool place for photos because depending on what direction you're looking and the type of cars that are in the scene, you can really feel like you're in another time. Some of the Burbank city architecture is very Art Deco themed, so I really liked this Burbank water and power plant shot that I got. And as I was crossing the bridge, I caught the Amtrak train making its way up north. Wildwood Canyon is a nice, very vertical hike in Burbank, and I took the camera to the top of the mountain and got some wonderful, really green views on the way up. Usually this trail is pretty dry, but it had just rained, and so everything was really lush and green. And I got this amazing photo of the radio tower with the crows and the moon in the background. And one of my favorite Burbank monuments is the F-104 Starfighter on Olive, which is an old jet fighter from the 50s that you can see. It is on display in front of the George Izzy Recreational Facility. A really cool piece of engineering that was designed right here in Burbank. I took my film camera to the battleship Iowa during Fleet Week, which is a time when active Navy ships come to hang out at the Port of Long Beach, and you can tour them and talk to people in the service and get to learn a little bit about what the Navy does. I really liked this shot of a Black Hawk. I loved how this photo came out. You can see the interior of the Black Hawk, but it's also a bit of a selfie. You can see me right here trying to take the photo. And this is a V-22 Osprey. And there were lots of demonstrations by the LA Fire Department who would take their fireboats out and do little water salutes in the harbor. I really liked this seagull. He bathed in light. This is a panorama that I stitched together out of two photos where you can see the Osprey and all the other helicopters and amphibious vehicles. And here is a dolphin rescue helicopter coming in to do a rescue demonstration. And I really liked all the cool colors on these signal flags on the Iowa. This is a really nice up close of the rotors on what I think is a Viper. And I lent my friend Nick the camera, and he took this cool portrait of me standing in front of the Huey. Here's a little bomb robot that came to greet us, and he sort of wiggled around as if to greet us. He was being controlled somewhere in another tent, and you could have these fun interactions with these little robots. Here's a photo I took of my friend Ilana, and I kind of like that she's slightly out of focus, as if you really can't capture her personality on film. And then here's a photo that she took of me drinking out of my thermos because it was a really hot day and I was profusely sweating. I think the cool thing about film is that it doesn't always pick up grimy sweat stuff. It tends to just be a very flattering way of taking photos. Here's a photo of my friend Jen, and we are at the skating rink, which is something I like to do on Fridays with my friends. I took my camera to our Big Sur trip with all of my friends and got some fun old vintage photos of them. Here's Chloe looking out into the distance, and Jack probably looking at Chloe. And I got an amazing splash coming in as the waves hit the rocks. And I handed my camera to my friend Darren, who took this photo of me. And then here's a photo that I then took of Darren. And here is Kevin and his girlfriend. This is probably my favorite photo from that trip. This is Kevin and my friend Dee laying down after spending some time in the hot tub. And I really like the juxtaposition between both of these characters just chilling, like as the sun is setting. And this is a bit of an accidental Renaissance photo of them all hanging out at the hot tub. I managed to get this nice golden hour photo of some of the plants overlooking the cliff sides. And I lugged my tripod and camera down 1,000 feet so that we could take a big group photo with the self-timer. I really liked this Baywatch-esque photo of Darren walking down the beach. I took some photos in the morning when the mist was sort of coming in around the cliffside, and it made for some really flattering lighting conditions. I really liked this one of Kevin and Dee and Max. My friend Kendra lives in the Magnolia district and has an old vintage house with a cool old pool and water slide. And I wanted to bring my camera to our fun pool party. I really liked this action shot of Kendra getting the slide ready for people to go down. And one of my friends took a photo right as I splashed into the water. My friend Nick and Justin started wrestling on some of the inflatables, and Justin got thrown into the water, and I managed to snap this right as he plunged. We do a little park hangout with some of my animation friends once a month, and sometimes I bring my camera, and I got shots of all of us hanging out under the tree and talking about animation. And I think my favorite thing is looking out into the distance and seeing the planes taking off at Bob Hope Airport. So one of my investments in this camera was a flash so that I could take pictures at night and do some fun flash photography. So I handed my camera off to my stepdad, Matt, who snapped a photo of my brother and I chugging beers at a family retreat in Big Bear. The flash made it possible for me to shoot indoors. So here is my brother presenting some hamburgers that he just grilled. I got this fun image of Big Bear Lake and a guy just cruising on by on a little jet ski between the pontoon boats. And here's where we rented a pontoon boat for ourselves. Here's a portrait I took of my brother out on the lake. On Big Bear Lake, there is a cool solar observatory that everybody likes to drive by and check out. And I could not resist taking a picture of this old Camaro. I took my camera to an event called Dad Day, which is where we hung out at the park and pretended to be dads, and we had red, white, and blue Bud Lights and tried to give each other dad advice. We grilled some hot dogs and tried to put on ties. And these were shot on Ektar 100, so it made the photos have a super fine grain, and there was a lot of good detail that I could bring out of the shadows when I did some post-processing to them. This is at one of the skate parks in Balboa Park, where I took photos of my friends and people at the skating park zooming around on their quad skates. This is Jen, and they are going through the half pipe. And these were a couple of really nice houses that I walked past on a late afternoon stroll with Max. And here's a nice photo just as the sun is setting over Brand Park. So this is around the time that I decided to upgrade. I had heard about a 35 to 105 lens, which is this right here. Now this is a fairly large piece of glass and it makes the camera pretty awkward to take around, but so far I've been getting pretty good results with it. Here's my friend Sam at the Batcade in Burbank, and I got a fun action shot of him smacking the ball, as well as my friend Carrie and Alicia. And here's a nice view of the Burbank Courthouse, which is another cool Art Deco building. My friend Adrian also likes to shoot on film, so him and I went on a little photo session in downtown Burbank and shot some photos of stuff downtown and each other. He shoots with a Pentax, I believe. And these were shot right around the New Year, so that basically makes 1 year of film photography. Now, there's a couple of other things I wanted to tell you guys before you go. All of the photos that you saw, I processed in Lightroom. So this was also sort of a Lightroom learning experience process for me. I'd never used Lightroom before, but it's really cool. You can batch import all your photos and then apply presets or change other image settings to make cool color looks to all your photos, or bring out shadows or dim down things that are overexposed. I have a couple of paid presets from Done It Did It, and whenever I use those, it makes some really cool, interesting colors. And after I color correct my photos, instead of posting these on social media and, kind of annoying all my friends with my photography and feeding the machine, instead I made a photo blog on my WordPress site. And so using a combination of Jetpack plugins and gallery stuff, I can make a fun, cool photo diary that is just for me or anyone I send my photo links to. The other place I've started posting my photos is on Google Maps. I will sometimes take a photo of a building or a place and then upload it to that place on Google Maps, and you can actually get a lot of views that way. This view of the LA Burbank Sports Center now has 62,000 views, which is a lot more than I could ever hope to achieve on Instagram. So thank you guys so much for joining me on my film journey. I had so much fun shooting on film, and I know that there is so much more to learn. I already have a few new roles that I've shot, which I want to develop. So until next time, I hope all of your Portra 400 and Fuji 200 or whatever you can get your hands on are all exposed perfectly.